Hello, everybody. I'm Glenn Crooks. Roberto Abramowitz will be here in just a moment on NYCFC Views. Long break for New York City FC. Has that been good or bad for the team? We've got reactions from the David Lee interview and our favorite moments on opening weekend in the EPL. All coming up on NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer!
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Roberto, what's happening? I'm Glenn.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm doing all right. Look, I know people think that I work in a professional Midtown studio and you are somewhere in the middle of Jersey off an exit someplace, also in a professional studio. As it turns out, I'm actually at home in a third bedroom, which I've adapted as my office, and you're in your mom's basement someplace that you never get out except for New York City games. So, and the reason I mention all of this is because there's construction going on and they're repointing our building, and it has been like right outside our window. Right now we have a break, so hopefully we can get this whole podcast in. But if it seems like at some point while I'm talking that Woody Woodpecker or 1,000 Woody Woodpeckers are outside my window going at it, then it is something like that. I mean, the noise level is amazing, but we're going to try to get this through. We're going to try to get through with this.
Hey,
I'll mute my mic when I'm not talking.
Well, I've got you. I got you to purchase this Yeti microphone that's supposed to have all these different controls where you can be directional and get rid of all that sound. Hey, listen, you're right. I don't get out much, but I made an amazing discovery this weekend when I did get out. Espresso martinis. Have you ever had one of these things? Oh my God! So I had two of them, which is
this morning.
No, last night. And then it was down by the beach. And then we're walking back, and this band is playing on the beach. Their name, I love Zydeco. I'm just a real Zydeco fan. That's the New Orleans Cajun music.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
French inspired. And great rhythm and beat. And, they play with washboards, and it's just fantastic. So we're walking back, and this Zydeco band is playing on the beach, and they were unbelievable. So look up. I want you to look up, Roberto, or I'll send you the link. The Gumbo Goombas, because it's a bunch of Italians in the band.
That's a great name.
Like New Orleans. Yeah, so anyway.
For the Jersey Shore, that is a perfect name.
Yes, absolutely. Espresso martinis. Ooh, that won't be my last one. I will say.
I'm sure. I think our road trips are going to be very interesting from now on.
Yeah,
we don't have that many left, though.
No, we don't.
What do we have? We have Washington,
DC United,
Miami. That'll be fun, and
Miami.
Cincinnati.
And Cincinnati, that'll be fun. And the
Cincinnati's great.
DC United will be fun because we'll be put in this location in the press area where we can only see a quarter of the field. If a ball goes anywhere above the 10 feet, we can't see that. And
like the crossbar, basically.
One of the terrible moments for me, I've got Anton Tinnerholm, and it worked out. We had a great time. But Anton Tinnerholm's injured, and the club agrees, David Lee, all of them agree to let Anton come in and be my analyst because Maddie couldn't make the game. It's at DC United. I had no idea, and I said to them, I said, look, I've got Anton Tinnerholm with me, man. Put at least for this one game, put us in a spot where we can see the field, because I kind of knew what might be coming because we've been there before. Sure enough, we're in this thing. And the first thing Anton said, and he cursed, so I can't say the whole thing, but he goes like, what is this? How can you see the field? I said, listen, man, this is the way it is in MLS at some of these stadiums. But the
DC United Audi Field is the worst. I mean, of all the new stadiums, it's horrific. I mean, it is really horrific. The lack of thought that went into making the press box on the broadcast booth is absolutely outstanding. The fact that they put it on the wrong side of the field where the sun comes right into you, you can't see. It's not even good. I mean, it's not good for people trying to watch the game, one. Two, it's definitely not good for TV cameras. I mean, it is terrible. And they don't want to invest any more money in sending it to the other side. They could build another press box on the other side.
More important than those things you just said is the players. Remember, we've been at games where the players have to shield their eyes on crosses, right? So the cross comes from the left to the right if they're going left to right on the field. And you see the players trying to shield their eyes so they can see the cross coming in. Oh, my God. The worst engineering and whoever's responsible.
So here's another thing that drives me crazy, okay? And this is just our problem and not anybody else's problem. Right. So the press box is, for us, on the left side of the field, right? On the left, it's literally like at the corner. When we do the games, we're basically in the box or at the end line of the games, okay? Now, the dressing room is right to the left of that, behind the goal. For us to get to the dressing room, we have to go all the way to the other side of the field in the press box, take an elevator down, and then have to walk another 120 yards back to the left side of the field, and then go. That's our problem. It's not anybody else's problem. Whatever. It gets my steps in. My watch is happy because I get my steps in when I go there. But
fights to say,
that's it. It is just such a horrific stadium. It just really, really is.
DC United,
but we like going down there.
Yeah, it's okay going down there, but dead last, not even close in their. In the view from the press box, just awful. All right, long break here for New York City FC. They're playing We'll have more of a Minnesota preview, so we're not going to talk much about that because we're going to be on again. We're going to be on again on Thursday after we get a chance. Oh, actually, I guess they'll train on Friday this week. I forgot about that because the game is Sunday. So we'll still have more of a preview when we do this thing on Thursday. Maybe we'll adjust it, wait for practice. I don't know. Isn't that great that from week to week we could just have these little meetings and decide that we're not going on today. That's the great thing about a podcast, isn't it? You can go on whatever you want.
We think, we'll have to see what our bosses say, but yes.
Yeah, well, that's true.
If they agree.
So I think the long break has been good, although there's look, we're trying to find out who's here and who's not. From what I can gather, maybe the most important player in that group of three that we've been monitoring, that is Julian Fernandez, Alonso Martinez, and Burke Risa. It seems I guess on Instagram they saw Risa out in Austin where the club had a closed door scrimmage, and then NYCFC source put up that Martinez scored a goal in that scrimmage. So if that's really true, I guess he's here. But we're hearing nothing about Fernandez. So I'm just gonna surmise that Julian Fernandez is not here yet, and that's unfortunate because again we're repeating ourselves, I suppose. 10 games left, not here. Integration, comfort level, all that stuff, Roberto. But the break's been good, I think, because you can at least get these other guys in and get a rest. I think the rest is important. It's a long season.
Well, Glenn, to me, the most important thing is the team being able to practice together and integrating all the new talent that they have. So if they're able to play a game in Austin and they played, I mean, that's definitely going to help because you have to get that understanding between players, and what a better way to do that with a real game against a real opponent. I think that's really, really key. You're going to get a lot of reps in practice, and I know practices are very high intensity. And everybody goes all out, and that's important. But there's something about a game that just makes things better. I mean, now you talk about the three guys who are supposed to be here, and we're not entirely sure who's here, who's not. Julian hopefully is able to practice, but as you said, we didn't get a lot of info on this scrimmage that they beat Austin 2-1. But to me, one of the most important things is integrating these players, and guys like Maxi Morales, who are back, right? He's got his papers. He never lost his papers, so he can slide right in. Now, is he going to play 90 minutes, or is he going to be coming off the bench, or is he going to start and do 60? And how they're going to use him, I would expect him to come off the bench against Minnesota, and then from then on, they're going to, figure out how he's doing, how he looks, what his fitness level is, and all this. Let's remember, he's not exactly a spring chicken anymore, soccer-wise. So you want to be able to make sure that you can get the most out of him and not hurt him. These 10 games that are remaining, all key. There isn't a moment that you can turn off, because that could be the difference between qualifying for the playoffs and not.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is, when we see Nick Cushing this week, whether it's Thursday or Friday, we'll ask about each player. Andres Pereira, I'm sure, played a lot in that Austin match as well. Yeah. Another newcomer who's going to be important down the stretch as well. Let's go back. We had David Lee exclusively last week, about 35 minutes or so, and went through a number of things. I suppose well, first, our guy, Tony Larson. We love Tony Larson. Put this one up, Sammy, because he does listen to everything that he's been a supporter from day one, yes. 2015. We've been there since the first kick. And Tony is like the first guy to really, help to get people and supporters know that we exist, our broadcasts and the different things we do on social media. So he really enjoyed the interview. And yeah, we did talk Maxi, Neymar, Messi, Tylus, and I'm happy you enjoyed the listen. There's going to be somebody a little further down whose tweet is going to maybe come back and say he didn't necessarily enjoy it as much as as Tony. But the first thing, I think the thing that got the most reaction, of course, was Neymar, where David Lee. Yeah. If I could find, I've got this somewhere. I've got his exact quote, so forgive me. Well, just when he said, this one for me is simple. And this is about the rumors of Neymar coming to MLS, and more specifically NYCFC, after he gets out of his contract with PSG. What David said was, this one is simple. You have to either are or be a free agent at the close of the transfer window, which he would not have been, even if he becomes a free agent. So I'm going by those words. So, but then I'll put up the Hudson River Blue, Sammy. So this tweet comes out after listening to our podcast, Hudson River Blue, but also the Fabrizio Romano information here that now it looks like Neymar is going to sign for a couple of years with Saudi Arabia. So I don't know.
You know what I would do if I was an MLS team or any other team? I'd have scouts in Saudi Arabia all the time. There are going to be enough high quality players that are going to go there, sample life there for a year, and say, this isn't for me. I can't do this for my family, or for whatever reasons. I can't do this. I want to be able to get back to the Western world and come back. I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys who are going to stick it out and have a great time and be good, but it's not for everybody. And I think that there's going to be a lot of talent coming back after sampling a year over there. It's a different way of life than we're accustomed to, especially if you have a family, because of all the restrictions that there are for women there that obviously we don't have over here. So we'll see what winds up happening there. I want to give a shout out to Tony as well, okay, Tony Larson, because not only has he been with us since day one. Remember when New York City opened up a shop on 14th Street? And it was a pop-up shop for a couple of months and all that. And then we had John Patrick with us, John Patrickoff rather, with us as a, and we did our podcast. We did Soccer in the City when we were doing that. We did a few episodes right there live with an audience. He was always there. I mean, he has been such a great supporter. He's a great supporter for the team, and he's a great supporter for us. And I just want everybody to know that we really appreciate him.
Yeah, and we had Patrickoff, we had Roddy Wallace, remember that? And then at that pop-up shop, one of my really favorite moments as someone doing interviews is getting Patrick Vieira for an hour. That was, and I know you were there for that, and I appreciated that. And that was a cool. I wish they'd bring the pop-up shop. Of course, COVID and everything else, but the pop-up shop was a pretty cool concept. I don't know how it ultimately worked for the club. We had a good time. I don't know if it, how great it was.
So here's what I would do if I was New York City FC. Some free advice, because they won't put me on their payroll for this. Do a pop-up shop at the beginning of next season, okay, on Roosevelt Avenue. Go rent out a place for a couple of months on Roosevelt Avenue, do it up, and bring as many A-listers as possible. Be as visible as possible. Literally paint the street blue in front of whatever locale that you're able to get. And let's do a pop-up shop that's in and out on Roosevelt Avenue.
Right.
That would be the best thing. It really would be.
Let's do it. Hey, put Corey Clayton up, Sammy. This again. Now this is about Neymar again. So Corey said, well, he's free in the summer of 2025, two-year deal, comes to MLS right before the World Cup. That'd be good timing, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's still young. I mean, he's not like 35 or anything. I think Neymar is either 29 or 30. So
he's 30. Yeah, he's 30.
All right. So that work, getting him at 32 could be worse. That's a year that's how old David Villa was when he came to New York City.
Okay, and then the last tweet will show T. Gerhardt, who
your buddy.
Well, he's followed me. I don't know if he follows you. He's put a bunch of stuff up. He's retweeted or liked some of my stuff.
I know.
So, but now it's like too many softball questions for David Lee, and I'm not sure how to respond to that other than, sometimes you can't dig in quite the manner maybe supporters would like you to dig because, it's like the old. Here's what I know about David. Whenever we are with him on the road or we have times to chat with him, to be honest with you, and this is just the way it is. They're off the record conversations. We can't. He's telling us things that are really interesting, and they provide good background for us so that maybe we can, understand things a little bit better. But a lot of that is confidential to the point where, it's not worth diving into something that, is going to be maybe misconstrued or construed as, hey, you're digging into territory that you shouldn't be in. And so I think, when you prepare an interview like that, I mean, and anybody, I'm not saying, maybe there were other questions that could have been asked. Maybe they could have been framed in certain ways to make it work. But, I was satisfied with the interview that we learned a couple of things about Pereira and Maxi and the disappointment in Tylis. I don't think we've heard anybody, in his position publicly say, Tylis has not been good in essence. I mean, whatever words he used.
He hasn't cut it as far as what they expected from him.
Yeah.
So that doesn't mean he's not a good talent, and he does have potential or anything. But they were hoping that he would be able to basically do what Tati Castellanos did, which was fit in as a center forward and learn the position and go in that direction. But it didn't quite work out because there aren't that many Tati Castellanos in the world that you can convert from a winger to a center forward and literally teach him the position. Because when Tati first started playing center forward, he was all over the place. He wasn't, where he was supposed to be, and he had to learn. But once he did learn, because the way he listens, the way he prepares, and the way he is, I mean, he turned out to be a really, really good center forward to the point of where now he's a center forward at Napoli. And that's an A-level squad, okay? That is an absolute A-level squad. And, it doesn't mean that if they continue to try to do this with Tylis, that he wouldn't be able to get it and become a very, very good center forward that way. But maybe he's just really much better suited to be a wing and go at players one-on-one, which is really what he thrives at. Is getting the ball deep, getting the ball, past the halfway line, and then running at players, beating them, shooting, or sending somebody else up. That's his strong point. That's his forte, and that's what I guess they're going to have to work on more with him to be more effective, because it has been a disappointing season based on the level of talent, that he has.
It's beyond disappointing. No matter what the word is from camp, it is beyond disappointing, Roberto. It's monumentally disappointing, his production, because I don't know how you guys describe it from the broadcast booth, but Maddie and I, and we're tough on them sometimes, but it's just the way he connects with the shots, the lack of confidence, and certainly goal scorers. That's if they're not confident, it's not going to happen. But he's been monumentally disappointing for what we've seen coming in, because what you expect is growth from a player. Everybody's talking about he's only 20 years old. Well, he was 100 times better last year as a 19-year-old. So shouldn't he be moving forward in his game?
He should be, but based on what's going on and how they wanted to use him and the players around him, not having Maxi Morales or anybody who is similar to Maxi Morales around, who sets people up, puts them in the right position, and gives them the ball with the right weight, right speed, and puts it in the right place, really makes a difference as well. And when you lose your confidence because you're not scoring goals, and I believe it's April 22nd since his last goal, so it's back then. So unless you start getting one and you get a cheap one or an easy one or maybe one on a penalty kick or something where your confidence level changes and then everything else starts working, it's hard. You hope that, he can get one against Minnesota and maybe that starts the engines for him. But I mean, he's going to have it in limited time because his days of starting all the time aren't here. I mean, he's going to be, he's going to be in a rotation between him, Ledesma, Santi Rodriguez, and what I mentioned, Ledesma, although they don't play the same position, it's because if you play Ledesma, Santi goes to the wing, Titleist goes to the bench, et cetera, et cetera. Or, if, there's a lot of different ways that plays. So I'm
going to look at this the same way as I looked at the goalkeepers last week, where I said, pick who's your starter against Minnesota and let that keeper roll the rest of the way. I think there's got to be a consistency to the 11 so they can, learn each other's movements a little better. So whether it's Magno, Bakrar is going to be up the middle, but who's on either side of him? That's who's underneath him. Is it Santi? Is it Maxi? Is it Ledesma? So if you are in like a massive rotation of players, you've got to pick players that you can count on, and you've got to go with them game in and game out. I think that's my belief. I will ask Nick this directly about the goalkeeper and the rest, that if he feels like he's got to really find, 13 or 14 players tops to get this thing done over the last 10 games. And, injuries, sometimes things happen in games, and now you're making fundamental changes, based on tactics and things. That's different. I'm just talking about a group that can learn how to play with each other and be comfortable with each other down the stretch, because certainly that connection in the final third has been part of the issue.
I think that matchups are going to games are going to dictate matchups. I think that he's going to go game by game and see who's defending and see what the best strategy is to beat that team. And maybe one player is better than the other. As he said, it depends also how you train. There's a lot of things that go into it. This. We know that Titleist already got benched one game because he didn't train properly during the week. And then he had a talking to, and then all of a sudden he was training really, really well. Yeah. So all these things are going to happen. I mean, they're not robots. This isn't FIFA, where you can just, do that. And sometimes you're just going to have to mix it up.
But that is the one disadvantage about the planning from game to game. And I mean, from theoretically, of course, that's the way you want to do. You have all this data, you have all this stuff. Yeah, maybe Magno's tools are better against the fullback for Minnesota. And then, your next match against Cincinnati, it's, maybe Pellegrini's better because of this. I get all that. But I'm just saying, the lack of connectivity in that final third of the field, the front six, the front five, the front four, whatever you want to call all those guys together, has, I think, been an issue in terms of, and you could say, well, they created 12 chances one game, 8 chances the next, compared to 2 for their opponent. I know all that happened, but there aren't goals in the back of the net. And I just think having some sort of consistency in there, in the lineup, despite who you're playing, it's like, be concerned more about yourselves than what's going on the other side. Get yourself right.
I get that. I fully get that. So what I'm going to do also, because now that you put this in my mind, I'm going to ask my stats guru, Sean Cabrera, to go through and see how many times New York City's actually repeated a lineup this year from game to game.
All right.
I don't think it's happened very often, by the way.
Yeah, if we can
I'd be surprised if it's more than twice.
So we'll share that later in the week.
It may not have even happened.
All right. So big game against Minnesota this week. We're going to talk more about that before that match is played here on NYCFC Views. Remember, you've got to subscribe to YouTube. You have to subscribe to Apple, and you have to subscribe to Spotify. Or if you just listen on Apple, just subscribe to Apple. And some people have Apple and Spotify. Yeah, that's it.
Well, Apple and Spotify are totally different. It really depends. I mean, Apple Music is different than Apple Podcast.
I know.
I don't want to try to explain this to you, Glenn. It's going to
don't explain it. Don't explain.
Spotify is very similar to Apple Music. It's not similar to Apple Podcasts.
Okay.
So But you can subscribe to any one of the three, and then you'll be able to find us. If you do it on Apple, Podcasts, and you don't have to see us, that might be a bonus, depending on your point of view.
Well, speak for yourself, dude. NYCFC 2, I thought we should mention MD Myers. He now leads MLS Next Pro with 15 goals, and he's scored 5 of those in the last 2 matches.
But they're not going to make the playoffs. They're going to miss out on the playoffs.
That's not true yet. Just let me finish. They beat Inter Miami 5-0, and he scored 3 in that one. And then up 3-1, they lose to Orlando City 4-3, but he had a pair in that one. I think that was on Sunday night. But here's the coincidence. So New York City FC 2, 6 matches to play, 4 points off a playoff spot. Sound familiar? Now, the senior team has 10 matches to play, but they are also 4 points off a playoff spot. So that's the little comparison there. All right?
Right. That was a big game to lose, because if they had won that game, they would only be 1 point off, and that puts them in a good position. I feel bad.
You must have been a math major.
You
must have been a math major. You must have been a math major.
No, not quite.
So if they got if they're 4 points out of a playoff berth and they won last night to earn 3, if they had won the game, they'd only be 1 point out. Awesome. Go ahead, make your point.
I haven't seen NYCFC 2 this year. I feel bad. I really do want to go see them. I want to see Maxi Carrizo play. I want to see I want to see MD Myers and see if he's developed enough to maybe get a run with New York City with a big club too. Because remember, he was drafted. Paul Caligiuri, when we saw him at the coaches convention, waxed poetic on this guy. I mean, waxed poetic. I mean, it was like he was talking about his son that he knew better than everybody. And I was excited for him. And I came in and I was like, I remember coming in to see Nick and going, oh, well, they really spoke really well of MD Myers. And what do you think? Well, we put him on tour already. We cut him. I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah. Well, another interesting note, we've mentioned it once before, but Patrick Mullins is his agent too, which is interesting. Former New York City forward. Hey, one other thing that just before I leave NYCFC 2, I look at the box score and see the whole thing. It gets sent into our inbox. The assistant referee for this one, Jessica Carnival, and I'm like, Jessica Carnival? I coached at Jessica. Sure enough, I looked up. So I coached her in the New Jersey Olympic Development Program. She was a midfielder. Ended up going to Villanova, but Jessica Carnival is now a referee. So Jessica, if anybody knows Jessica or family's listening or anything like that, please tell her I gave her a shout out. Time to kick it around, Roberto. All right, Roberto, we got about 10 minutes left. You understand me?
Well, I think we have less than that, but go ahead. We're going to get yelled at again.
No, we'll get through it. But I do, EPL opening weekend. That's always pretty thrilling. And Man City kicks it off. One of our sister clubs here, New York City FC's sister Manchester City, winning their match. And I want to get to that in a minute because it was pretty cool. They played Burnley, and it wasn't a particularly difficult opener for them. But my favorite moment was off the field. Jack Harrison loaned by Leeds to Everton. That just happened, I think, earlier today.
No, what was it? Did that get finalized? Because Aston Villa wanted him.
No, he's at Everton.
Finalized?
Everton.
No.
Listen to me. Listen to me. On Everton's official Twitter account, they welcomed him into the club. What do you want me to say?
Okay. Because Everton wanted him. And then Aston Villa jumped in. Stop.
Okay.
Aston Villa jumped in, and they wanted him, and they were going to do everything. But then, like everybody did their medical, and he's like 6 weeks out, right? Because he's injured. So he was 6 weeks out. But as of last night, he was going to Aston Villa. So obviously things changed overnight. They're 6 hours ahead of us in London. So, or 5 hours in London, 6 in Paris. And so things changed, and he went to Everton.
Okay. So that's an extra minute describing what we already knew. All right. So anyway, you should get up early.
Good luck for Jack. Good luck for Jack.
You should get up earlier.
I hope he does well.
All right. You should get up earlier in the morning. That's my point.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Well,
That's not happening.
Then you miss out
What's
on
your
the news.
favorite moment of the weekend? Okay,
This-
I was going to ask you.
So I'll do this quickly because it's a tactical thing and it's Man City. So, and you have to read The Athletic. I think it's a really good description. If you get if you're a subscriber, you got to pay to get The Athletic. Stuart James wrote a column, and I noticed again yesterday watching Man City, Ederson moving up and becoming, and we've seen Barraza do this for New York City, moving up and becoming part of the back four, like very high up the pitch. And what this does is it creates confusion, for the opponent. Do I close down the goalkeeper? And if I do, and you got feet like Ederson, you just bypass the midfield and boom, boom, boom. So he wrote this beautiful tactical account of not so much yesterday, but against Bayern in a preseason scrimmage. So I think it's worth your read. That's my favorite moment of the weekend is seeing the goalkeeper as a member of the back four in the what arguably is the best league in the world. Okay, what's yours?
Okay, so my favorite is this. A while back, maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, okay, there was this video that came out. It was Thierry Henry talking, I believe, on Sky Sports or some European TV network. And he was talking about Barcelona and about the way they play. And then he added a little bit of a story about how he was put on the left wing. This is Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. And he was on left wing. And during the first half, everything was happening on the right side. Okay. And Pep is very strict about how you move, where you go. So basically, you stay on your wing 75 yards, and then after that, you can freelance a little bit when the ball crosses into that final third. Okay? And then over there, you can start freelancing a little bit and all that. But everything was coming down the right side. Who's on the right side? Messi's on the right side. So everything's on the right side. He's alone, never gets the ball. Finally, he says, I'm tired of watching all these guys play over there. And he starts joining in. He has a couple of 1-2s. He gets a brilliant pass and he scores a goal. And they go into the locker room ahead 1-0. Pep Guardiola comes into him, says, I told you to stay on the left side, takes him out of the game. Scored the only goal, took him out of the game because of indiscipline, tactical indiscipline. You can't do that to Pep. So what happens this weekend? Erling Haaland scores 2 goals for Man City against Burnley. They're going off at halftime, and one of the cameras on the field catches Guardiola laying in to Haaland, just laying into him to the point of where when Haaland now finally goes up a little ahead, Guardiola goes and pushes the camera away. It was funny. It's like, don't mess with Pep. If he tells you this is the way he wants you to play, he doesn't care how many goals you score. You freaking listen. And you could see Haaland wasn't talking back. He just had his head down. He was getting reamed, and it was public. Nope. You don't do that. That was my favorite because it doesn't matter how big a name you are. You're not bigger than Pep. Pep will put you in your place. Good for him. It's good. It's good. That was my favorite moment.
So we both had Pep moments in essence because he must have been in the lab in the off season, because it's a back 3, it's a back 4, and there's a goalkeeper, and it's risky, and they might cough one up along the way, but imagine the and what Burnley did, and that's Vincent Kompany. So this was a nice little matchup. So Kompany played, he man-marked everybody all over the pitch, which doesn't happen very often. And so Ederson was on the ball a lot of times, like 40 yards from his own goal, just with the sole of his foot on top of the ball, and no Burnley player coming close to him. They were like,
okay, we're not. So where is Ederson from?
Well, Brazil.
Yes. Being a goalie or not being a goalie, they are so comfortable with the ball at their feet. Because they played. I mean, they just weren't in goal all the time and never kicked the ball. They played.
No,
they're as comfortable as anybody else on the field.
Well, this is one to watch because, Pep has been, quote unquote, copied before as far as, tactical adjustments in the game, the inverted fullbacks and the rest, which he did at Bayern Munich after he left Barcelona. And so cool stuff. Hey, the final thing I would say here, and maybe something I don't, Alexander Collins. So he's still at Girona. His contract expires June 30th, 2025. He wasn't in the squad over the weekend. They had a 1-1 draw at Real Sociedad, and he's not on the injured list. So you have any idea what's going on?
I haven't really checked his Instagram to see anything. So no idea. But if it doesn't work out for him and he's not playing, then maybe he should go someplace else, come back here, whatever needs to be done.
Yeah, the word is he's not
Not
coming
necessarily
back
New York City, but at least the league.
No, I don't think it's
and
happening.
we've seen that. So
yeah, I don't think that's happening. Well, Roberto, wonderful stuff. When we come back a little later in the week, we will have diagnosed Minnesota a little bit more and see who's training with New York City FC and might play in that match on Sunday at Citi Field. So good stuff, man.
Get your tickets now. Fill up that joint. It's a good place to watch it. It's seriously a really decent place to watch a game. It really is. And the sight lines are better. It's closer to the field, depending where you're sitting. So if you haven't checked out Citi Field yet, make the trek. It's worth it. It's on a Sunday. It'll be easy peasy.
All right. So for Roberto, I'm Glenn. Remember to subscribe, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify, and rate us. Whatever you want to say.
Write reviews. It helps.
Yes,
even if they're like the one that killed Glenn. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever you want to do. All right.
I do it all the time.
Have a good week, everybody. We'll see you again soon.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.